All right. It's a good week in the culture state of North Carolina. First off, Dennis.
Yeah.
Miss you, bud.
I miss you too, man.
So we saw each other in person when you came over to my house.
I did.
A couple weeks ago. We didn't necessarily do anything last week as far as recording.
No, we didn't.
So it feels like, because I've been talking to you for at least once a week for a good almost 2 years. For a year, I guess solid year and a half.
Oh, more than that, yeah.
Wait a minute. It was 2020.
Yeah.
So almost 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Almost 3 years, actually. So 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Almost 3 years. And I didn't speak to you last week, so it was like, I feel like something's missing in my life. And I think of you.
You're missing from my life too. I was like, I haven't talked to Chris in forever. What's going on? Things are happening. I felt lost.
Yeah. Nobody say pause when you say things, like you were telling me about the size of our new shirts, and I wanted to pause everything you just said off off the mic. Pause. But yeah, it's great to see you, man. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, new shirts, by the way. Show them off right there.
You know what? We should start offering merchandise, and not just stuff that says Culture State, but other North Carolina stuff, because I feel like we're the ones that's kind of pushing the state to the forefront. And I think if we come together with some things, people might like it.
We can figure something out.
We can figure that out. As far as figuring things out, it feels like Carolina has kind of figured themselves out. Feels like Duke has kind of figured themselves out. Even though NC State lost to Carolina, I'm not gonna be down on NC State.
No, nor should anybody.
NC State, if you would have taken NC State the last, I would say, 3-4 years, if they would have had a similar run heading into the Carolina game, where everything is set up for Carolina to have a triumphant day. I mean, they were commemorating the 93 team, 30 years since that national championship. Armando Bacot breaks two UNC records, the double-double record and also the rebounding record. So you have Tyler Hansbrough in the building. You have other dignitaries besides the 93 team in the building. And Carolina needed a quad one win, and strangely enough, NC State is a quad one team. At least they were last week. Haven't checked the recent rankings or whatever, but it's crazy. Everything was set up. NC State normally would have lost that game by 30, and you lost your best player to injury in the middle of the game. And they did not. That team fought. And I think we're looking at a different NC State team. If Terquavion Smith is able to finish that game, I think Carolina still wins, but NC State only lost by 11 points. Maybe we're talking about a 1 or 2 point game if Terquavion Smith is still in the game.
Yeah, who knows at that point? But you never know. They could have came back and won. Either way, NC State was in that game throughout. It wasn't a blowout that they may have, squeaked out a 6-0 run to close things out over the last minute.
They were up by 10 at one point. NC State was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was a good back and forth game. And I think even in the loss, I think NC State kind of showed that, hey, you know what? We have some good wins over some really good teams recently, having beat Duke at PNC Arena, which they always beat Duke at PNC Arena. But also other good quality wins leading up to this game, including one over Miami, a Miami team that just lost to Duke. Yeah, NC State's a good basketball team. I think they have shown over the last month that they are worthy of being a tournament team. Obviously, how Baby T's injury and all that stuff moving forward will impact them if he's able to play, how long he's out. That's to be determined. We're recording this on a Monday, by the way, right after the State Carolina game. So we don't know the prognosis. The only thing we know is it's day to day, whatever that means. So I still think they're good enough to be a tournament team. They might finish 5th or so in the conference standings, which is fine, but I see them getting into the NCAA tournament, which is the goal for this season. Kevin Keatts needs it. And I think also is, again, a good win for UNC because they needed that too, because they have struggled down the stretch. I think up until that game, they only had one quad one win up until that point. So they needed it. I think they're obviously a tournament team too. You got to field the team. You got to field 68 teams somehow. But UNC, I think, is a tournament team as well. But a win over NC State, oddly enough, actually boosts their resume, which is weird to think about.
Yeah, it made everything that much better for UNC. And I also think it just kind of that game added a little bit more parity to what's happening around the triangle, honestly, because at the beginning of the year, I think we all thought that UNC was the best team in the triangle. And then all of a sudden they lose a few games early, and then it's like, well, I guess Duke is the best team in the triangle, because just automatically you don't think about NC State because of kind of how the program has been. And then all of a sudden NC State not only just beats Duke, they smoke Duke out of the building.
Yeah.
And then they end up beating Miami at home in overtime. And what could have been a trap game.
Tech.
Yeah, I was about to say that could have been a trap game going to Georgia Tech, because Georgia Tech, although not the best team in the ACC, is a tough team coached by Josh Pastner.
I was talking Virginia Tech.
Oh, Virginia. Well, Virginia Tech as well.
State, yeah.
But also Georgia Tech, like that's a game that anybody could easily lose on the road, because Georgia Tech is, for some reason, such a tough place to play. And they come in with all that hype, and I think they're worth the hype. Right now, we don't know who the best team in the ACC, best team in the Triangle is. And Dennis, we just had the best college football season ever in the state of North Carolina. Things are setting up right now where we might have a really good basketball season, because if you think about it, all 4 ACC teams in the state of North Carolina should make the NCAA tournament. We're hoping that Wake Forest and NC State, Duke or Carolina, I'm going to add them into it as well, all don't, plummet towards the end of the season. They're all going to have to face each other and beat each other. So, some wins and losses may end up canceling out. But there's a chance that all 4 teams in this state make the NCAA tournament, which, I'm sure it's happened before, but it'll be the first time in forever that's happened.
It's been a while, which is weird to think about, because for so long it just feels like that should be the standard.
Yeah.
In the state, say, all 4 ACC schools in the state of North Carolina should be the NCAA tournament.
Yep.
Where they're seated, whatever, but they should be there. That's the standard for these programs. But even for programs like Duke and Carolina, it's an expectation at minimum of Sweet 16.
Yeah.
For some of those programs. Now for State and Wake, things are a little bit different, but those 4 schools should be NCAA tournament teams year in and year out. And what Coach Forbes is doing over there, I think they barely missed on making it last year, but he's got basically a brand new roster, and he's still getting things done over there. I know they've got they picked up a ranked win not too long ago. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head. But nevertheless, Wake looks like, I don't know. We haven't really seen them play all the Triangle teams yet. So are they the best team in the state of North Carolina? I don't know. To be determined. But all 4 teams should be in there, which, again, should be an expectation and a standard. I'm curious overall how many teams from the state of North Carolina are going to make the tournament, because then we saw App State make it last year after winning their conference. We've seen UNC Wilmington has made it in the past, so has Campbell. I'm curious to see how many schools from the state of North Carolina, your beloved UNCG Spartans, have made it in there before.
Yeah, I hope they make it. But go back to Wake Forest. I just looked it up. Yeah. They beat Duke when Duke was ranked at 14.
That's right, it was Duke. That's right.
And they also beat Clemson right before they lost to
the one, because
Virginia. And that Virginia game was really close. It's a 9-point victory for Virginia that they had over the weekend. And Virginia's ranked 10 at the time of this recording. They're ranked 10 because the new AP standings haven't come out yet. But that game was really close, and it could have swung the other way for Wake Forest. Virginia was able to pull it out towards the end, but the game was a lot closer than what that score indicates. So Wake Forest has beat 2 ranked teams.
Yeah, and good ones,
decisive
Clemson
wins too.
And Clemson was the top ranked team in the ACC at the time when they beat them. So yeah, good wins all around.